Welcome to Dublin City, a city with less and less guitar stores. This is Wicklow Street, and it used to be Dublin's answer to London's Denmark Street. It was a street with multiple guitar stores on it. There used to be 3, and then there was another one just off of it. Things have changed. The first store I remember closing on Wicklow Street was called Perfect Pitch, and now in its place is a restaurant called The Green Hen. This used to be called Dublin City Guitar Center. It closed down after a few years and then opened up as X Music, or a smaller version of X Music. That's also gone now. It's a restaurant, I think. And just off Wicklow Street used to be Walton's. You can see that there's Walton's New School of Music above, but that used to be a full guitar store. It was a big one too. Now they have a second location that it's just a shell of its former self, but it's not in the city centre. Now the reason that I'm showing you this is because yet another guitar store is closing. One that has lasted for 50 years. This is Capel Street, and Goodwins Music are closing after 50 years in business. They were the longest standing guitar store in Dublin. That's obviously no longer. We're gonna go take a look. This guitar was bought in Goodwins. This is a 1970s Ibanez Custom. It was their version of a Gibson Les Paul. And this was bought in 1982 for 120 Irish pounds, which is a currency that doesn't even exist anymore. And it was bought by my granddad for my dad when he was 15 for Christmas. And 120 Irish pounds was about 2/3 of his wages. So it was a big investment. But it was a big investment made in Goodwins. Now the reason that Goodwins is closing is for retirement, and that makes sense. I mean, if you manned a store for 50 years, you deserve a good retirement. But it is sad that it's just another store that's closing. There aren't many left. So what is left? Music Minds. They're situated pretty much bang centre of the city centre, and it's in the more touristy area of the city. It's just opposite the Halfpenny Bridge, and it's quite a small store, and their main stock is budget guitars. They have guitars that are branded by their own name, so very inexpensive, easy for beginners, and they've got practice amps to go with it. And they've got the lower end of the market in the city covered. Music Maker. Music Maker has been around for years, and it's just 2 doors away from where Perfect Pitch used to be. Music Maker are probably the closest to a traditional music store in the city centre. It's the biggest one too, because they can stock drums, keys, studio equipment, as well as having the whole upstairs dedicated to guitars, both electric and acoustic. The market-wise, they're mainly focused on Gibson and Fender, and because of that their market is kind of medium to high end. They've got Epiphones, and then they go up to a couple of Gibsons that can be quite expensive, but it's mainly focused on the medium price range. What you'll find a little bit off the beaten track as far as the tourist places go is a smaller shop that's more premium. It's got a lot of super high-end guitars. I'll link their Reverb store in the description if you want to take a closer look. But this is Sumneck guitars. Sumneck have got a lot of really interesting guitars, and they're all pretty much the high-end guitars. They don't really stock a particular brand per se. They seem to have kind of one of everything, which is quite nice. Just going in and having a look at, you never know what you'll find. Of course, with that variety and with those higher-end guitars comes the high price tag, so that is to consider. But that's really all that's left in Dublin City Center. There's 3 guitar stores. That's not to say that you can't find guitars in other stores, but they tend to be in varying states of disrepair and being priced far too highly. And the reason that I'm talking about this is because, well, it's not just happening here. Look, I'm wearing a Sam Ash hat. It's happening across the world. And it affects a lot more than you might think. Sure, it's going to affect the customer, and we'll talk about how it affects the customer, but it's also going to affect the employees of the store, yeah. But there's a lot more people in the chain. Think about distributors. That's one less client that they can sell a plethora of brands to. And that's one less client that they can sell a new brand to. It makes brands that aren't established, it's harder for them to establish themselves and get retailers. It makes it harder for people to pick up a guitar and try it out, or play a pedal, or try any gear really. It just makes it more difficult, which is never a good thing. And while I'm thinking about it, it's also probably going to impact the amount of people who want to play guitar. Like, I remember when I wanted to play guitar, going into a guitar store and just looking at the guitars, oh my gosh. But that's becoming less and less. Now it's just kind of looking at Amazon, I guess, for a lot of people. And when it comes to how it negatively affects the customer, it's not just that we've got less guitar stores to try out guitars in, it's also that we're getting closer and closer to a monopoly with a handful of big stores that kind of cover the entire world, and that means that there's less and less competition. We're getting closer and closer to recommended retail price is the price. There's no competition, there's no deals, which is never good for the end consumer. And then also think about how it is nice when you've got a problem with an instrument to bring it back to the place that you bought it and show them the problem and get it resolved, rather than get an email from experts to tell you that that's how the guitar should be when it shouldn't. It would be nice to have the in-store experience, and with less and less guitar stores, we are losing that. So I suppose what I'm trying to say is that the guitar stores that we have left, we should look after them. In Ireland, there are more than just the 3 that are left in city centre, but there's not that many. Yeah, it's a small country, but there used to be a lot more. It makes me feel very old when I'm reminiscing about old guitar stores that are no longer here. It's also quite sad just going into like Goodwins. It was empty, and it wasn't nice. So those guitar stores that you see, try and support them. Okay, that's the video. Thank you for watching, and if you liked it, make sure to like it, subscribe if you want to, and I'll see you next time. Bye bye.